What's the sound of American military fury unleashed in response to dead soldiers?
The U.S. carried out retaliatory strikes on suspected Islamic State terrorist targets in Syria. A U.S. official says more than 70 targets were hit.
December 19th to 20th, 2025, provided the answer across central Syria. F-15 E-Strike Eagles dropping precision-guided munitions, a 10 Thunderbolts shredding ISIS positions with 30mm cannons, AH-64 Apache helicopters launching Hellfire missiles, and M142 HIMARS rocket systems obliterating targets from dozens of kilometers away. In 24 hours, the United States struck over 70 ISIS positions across multiple Syrian provinces.
Hugh, this is 70 strikes inside Syria, ISIS targets.
Command nodes, weapons caches, staging areas, systematically dismantling ISIS infrastructure in retaliation for an ambush that killed 2 Iowa National Guard soldiers 6 days earlier. This wasn't a proportional response. This wasn't measured escalation. Before we move ahead, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our videos. This was Operation Hawkeye Strike, a massive, overwhelming demonstration that killing American soldiers triggers devastating consequences regardless of how long it's been since the last American combat deaths. The December 13th ambush that killed 2 Iowa Guardsmen was the first American combat fatality in Syria since 2019. 6 days later, ISIS learned that even years of relative quiet doesn't mean America has forgotten how to respond to attacks on its troops with overwhelming force. The message was unmistakable. You can attack American soldiers. You will pay for it with destruction delivered from aircraft you can't reach, missiles you can't see coming, and firepower you cannot survive. The catalyst: when Iowa Guardsmen died in the desert. December 13th, 2025, 2 Iowa National Guard soldiers on patrol in central Syria. These weren't active-duty Special Operations Forces or Marines. These were citizen soldiers from Iowa, part-time military personnel who hold civilian jobs back home but were deployed to Syria as part of America's ongoing counter-ISIS mission. They were conducting routine operations in an area where ISIS still maintains presence despite having lost its territorial caliphate years earlier. Then came the ambush. ISIS fighters, using tactics refined through years of insurgency, struck the patrol with small arms fire, possibly IEDs, and coordinated assault. 2 Americans died, the first U.S. combat deaths in Syria since 2019, over 6 years of relative quiet, broken by violence that ISIS probably thought would go unpunished given America's apparent disengagement from Syrian ground operations. ISIS made a catastrophic miscalculation. The relative lack of American casualties in recent years wasn't because ISIS had defeated U.S. forces or because America had lost the ability to project overwhelming firepower. It was because ISIS had been largely suppressed and American forces weren't encountering significant resistance. The December 13th ambush reminded ISIS why they'd been suppressed, and 6 days later, Operation Hawkeye demonstrated what happens when ISIS kills Americans and America decides the response should be total devastation. The deaths of these 2 Iowa National Guardsmen triggered the largest American airstrike campaign in Syria in years. A coordinated operation involving multiple aircraft types, precision weapons, and allied support designed to obliterate ISIS capabilities across multiple provinces simultaneously. Operation Hawkeye Strike, the 24-hour devastation, December 19th to 20th, 2025. Central Syria became a free-fire zone for American military assets operating with one mission: destroy everything ISIS uses to plan, stage, and conduct operations. The aircraft deployed tell the story of overwhelming air superiority. F-15 E-Strike Eagles, $87 million each, designed specifically for deep strike missions against heavily defended targets. These twin-engine fighter bombers can carry over 20,000 pounds of weapons. GPS-guided Joint Direct Attack Munitions, JDAMs, laser-guided bombs, air-to-ground missiles, and deliver them with precision that allows striking individual buildings without destroying surrounding structures. F-15Es operating over Syria could hit targets throughout the country with near impunity. ISIS has no air force, no meaningful air defenses, and no ability to prevent American aircraft from operating wherever they choose. A 10 Thunderbolts, $18 million ground attack aircraft built around a 30mm GAU-8 Avenger cannon that fires depleted uranium rounds designed to destroy tanks. The A-10 is specifically designed for close air support and attacking ground targets. It's slow, heavily armored, and carries massive weapons loads optimized for destroying structures, vehicles, and personnel. When A-10s arrive over ISIS positions, the sound of the GAU-8 cannon, often described as a beep that shakes the ground, is the last thing ISIS fighters hear before explosive rounds shred everything in the target area. H-64 Apache attack helicopters, $35 to $50 million platforms carrying Hellfire missiles, 2.75-inch rockets, and 30mm chain guns. Apaches operate at lower altitudes than fixed-wing aircraft, providing precision strikes on moving targets, conducting armed reconnaissance, and engaging ISIS fighters with weapons that can destroy vehicles, structures, or personnel with equal effectiveness. The Apache's targeting systems allow them to engage targets in darkness, through dust, and with precision that minimizes collateral damage while maximizing ISIS casualties. M142 HIMARS rocket artillery systems, $5.1 million per launcher, firing GPS-guided rockets that can strike targets up to 80 kilometers away with accuracy measured in meters. HIMARS doesn't require aircraft overhead. These truck-mounted launchers fire from secure positions, launch 6 rockets in rapid succession, and can relocate before counter-battery fire arrives. For striking ISIS command posts, weapons caches, or staging areas, HIMARS provides devastating firepower without risking pilots or aircraft. Jordanian fighters also participated, demonstrating regional coalition support for counter-ISIS operations. Jordan has its own security interests in preventing ISIS resurgence and welcomed opportunity to participate in strikes that degrade ISIS capabilities threatening Jordanian territory. The result? Over 70 ISIS targets struck across Deir ez-Zor, Raqqa, and Jabal al-Amur near Palmyra. Multiple Syrian provinces hit simultaneously in coordinated strikes that ISIS couldn't defend against, escape from, or respond to. The targets, systematically dismantling ISIS infrastructure. The 70-plus targets struck weren't random bombing for psychological effect. They were carefully selected high-value ISIS assets identified through intelligence collection, surveillance, and reconnaissance. Destroying these caches eliminates weapons that would have been used in future attacks. Staging areas, locations where ISIS fighters gather, prepare for operations, and launch attacks. Striking staging areas kills fighters, destroys vehicles and equipment, and makes planning future operations more difficult because ISIS must constantly relocate to avoid detection and targeting. The strikes targeted locations across multiple provinces simultaneously, preventing ISIS from simply relocating assets from one area to another to escape the bombing. When strikes hit Deir ez-Zor, Raqqa, and Palmyra simultaneously, ISIS has nowhere to run. Everywhere they operate becomes a potential target. The evidence. CENTCOM releases the footage. U.S. Central Command didn't just issue press releases about Operation Hawkeye, they released video evidence showing the operation in action. The footage includes F-15Es being loaded with precision-guided bombs on flight decks, ground crews arming aircraft with the weapons that would strike ISIS targets hours later. This shows preparation and deliberate planning. Operation Hawkeye wasn't hasty retaliation, it was calculated destruction executed with precision. HIMARS launchers firing rockets toward ISIS targets, the distinctive trail of GPS-guided munitions arcing toward targets dozens of kilometers away. Each launch represents another ISIS position being obliterated by 200 pounds of high explosive delivered with accuracy measured in single-digit meters. The public release of operational footage serves multiple purposes. It demonstrates to American audiences that ISIS attacks are answered decisively. It warns ISIS that killing Americans triggers overwhelming military response, and it reassures regional allies that America maintains both capability and will to conduct large-scale operations against terrorist threats. The strategic message: killing Americans has consequences. Operation Hawkeye. Strike sends multiple strategic messages that echo far beyond the 70-plus destroyed ISIS targets. To American troops in Syria, your deaths will be answered. The Iowa National Guardsmen killed on December 13th weren't forgotten or written off as acceptable casualties of routine operations. Their deaths triggered a 70-plus target strike campaign, demonstrating that America values its soldiers' lives enough to respond with overwhelming force when they're killed. To regional allies, America maintains military capability and political will to conduct large-scale counterterrorism operations. Operation Hawkeye provides ammunition for both sides. Those supporting continued presence point to the operation as evidence America can effectively degrade ISIS through air power and limited ground presence. Those opposing it cite the deaths of 2 Americans as evidence that even limited presence creates unacceptable risks for marginal security gains. The verdict: when 70 targets answer for 2 deaths. 2 Iowa National Guard soldiers died in a December 13th ISIS ambush, the first American combat deaths in Syria in over 6 years. 6 days later, the United States responded with Operation Hawkeye Strike. Over 70 ISIS targets destroyed in 24 hours. The operation wasn't proportional, it was overwhelming. ISIS killed 2 Americans. America destroyed 70-plus ISIS positions, killed unknown numbers of ISIS fighters, and eliminated capabilities ISIS had been developing for months or years. The message was unambiguous. Attacking American soldiers triggers devastating consequences that far exceed the immediate provocation. CENTCOM released video showing aircraft loading weapons and HIMARS launching rockets. Public demonstration that America possesses both capability and will to conduct large-scale strikes against terrorists who kill Americans. 2 American deaths, 70-plus ISIS targets destroyed. Operation Hawkeye Strike complete. If this breakdown of Operation Hawkeye Strike's devastating response showed you American military power in action, hit that like button and subscribe for coverage of the operations defending our troops. Drop a comment. Should the U.S. stay in Syria or bring troops home? Let's discuss.